I stood in my living room on my 70th birthday, surrounded by family and friends who had come to celebrate. But nobody was celebrating. They were staring at my face, at the black eye swollen purple and tender. The room had gone completely silent. Then my son Derek broke that silence with loud, cruel laughter. He said proudly, his voice carrying across the room, "My wife taught him what silence means." His wife Brielle stood beside him with a cold smirk on her face. I said nothing. Not yet. Not until night fell. Let me take you back 6 months, to where this nightmare really began. I had been living alone in my 4-bedroom house in suburban Cleveland, Ohio for 3 years. My wife Margaret had passed away from cancer, and the house felt too big without her. But it was my home, filled with 40 years of memories. I kept busy with my woodworking hobby in the garage, played cards with my buddies from my army days, and tried to fill the quiet spaces with television and books. Then one Tuesday evening in March, my phone rang. It was Derek, my only son. He was 36 years old and had been married to Brielle for 2 years. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something," he said, his voice tight with stress. "What's wrong?" I asked, sitting up straighter in my recliner. "Brielle and I lost our apartment. The landlord sold the building, and the new owner doubled the rent. We can't afford it. We've been looking for a new place, but everything is so expensive now. Dad, I hate to ask this, but could we stay with you? Just temporarily, until we get back on our feet?" I didn't hesitate. "Of course you can. You're my son. This is your home too." The relief in his voice was palpable. "Thanks, Dad. I promise it won't be for long. Just a couple of months." They moved in the following Saturday with surprisingly few belongings. A few suitcases, some boxes, not much else. Brielle was polite enough at first, thanking me for opening my home to them. She was 33, attractive in a sharp sort of way. With blonde hair she kept perfectly styled and fingernails always painted a deep red. The first week passed smoothly. Derek went to his job at the insurance company every morning. Brielle said she was a freelance marketing consultant who worked from home. They kept to themselves mostly, staying in the guest bedroom and bathroom on the 2nd floor. But the second week, things started to shift. I came home from the grocery store one afternoon to find Brielle rearranging my living room furniture. The couch where Margaret and I used to sit together every evening had been shoved against a different wall. The coffee table we had picked out together 30 years ago was gone entirely. "What are you doing?" I asked, grocery bags still in my hands. She looked up with a bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Just freshening things up. This arrangement is so much better for the flow of the room. Trust me, I studied interior design, but I liked it the way it was." Her smile tightened. "Amos, you've had it the same way for decades. Sometimes change is good. You'll get used to it." I wanted to argue, but I bit my tongue. They were my guests. I could be flexible. 2 days later, I noticed the photographs were gone. Margaret's framed pictures that had lined the mantel and side tables, our wedding photo that had hung in the hallway for 42 years, pictures of Derek as a baby, all of them vanished. I found Brielle in the kitchen making coffee. "Where are the photographs?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. "Oh, those," she said, not looking at me. "I put them away. They were making the space feel so heavy and depressing. All those old memories everywhere. It's not healthy, Amos. You need to move forward, not live in the past. Those aren't just old memories. That's my wife. That's my life." She turned to face me then, her expression hardening. "Your wife is dead. She's been dead for 3 years. Surrounding yourself with her ghost isn't going to bring her back." The words hit me like a slap. Before I could respond, Derek walked in. "What's going on?" he asked. "Your father is upset that I put some pictures away," Brielle said, her voice suddenly soft and wounded. Derek looked at me. "Dad, Brielle is just trying to help. The house was starting to feel like a shrine. Maybe it is time to pack some of that stuff away." "But I didn't ask for help," I said. "I know, but sometimes we need help even when we don't ask for it." Derek put his arm around Brielle. "Just give it a chance, okay?" I nodded slowly, feeling outnumbered in my own home. That evening, after they had gone upstairs, I went outside to put the trash bin at the curb for pickup. When I opened the lid, my heart stopped. There, crumpled among the garbage bags, were all of Margaret's photographs, not packed away carefully, thrown away like trash. I pulled them out, my hands shaking. Some of the frames were cracked. I took them inside, cleaned them off, and hid them in my bedroom closet. I said nothing to keep the peace. That's when I should have known. That's when I should have put my foot down. By the end of the second month, Brielle had taken over completely. She invited her friends over constantly, usually without any warning. I would come home from running errands to find 5 or 6 people I had never met drinking wine in my living room, their loud laughter filling the house. One Tuesday evening at 11 o'clock, I was trying to sleep. The noise from downstairs was overwhelming. Music pounding through the floorboards, shrieking laughter, breaking glass. I got up, put on my robe, and went downstairs. About 8 people were in my living room, most of them holding drinks. Empty beer bottles covered my coffee table. "Excuse me," I said loudly, trying to be heard over the music. "It's 11 o'clock on a weeknight. I have a doctor's appointment in the morning. Could you please keep it down?" The music stopped. Everyone turned to look at me. Brielle stood up from the couch, her face flushed from alcohol. "Are you serious right now? I just need to get some sleep. This is my home too, Amos. I have the right to have friends over. I understand that, but not this late, not this loud." She walked toward me, and I could smell the wine on her breath. "You are such a controlling old man. No wonder Derek's mother died early. She probably couldn't stand living with you either." The room went silent. I felt the words like a knife. "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" "Get out of my house. All of you." Brielle laughed, a harsh sound. "I'm not going anywhere." "Derek!" My son appeared from the kitchen. "What's wrong?" "Your father is trying to kick my friends out because we're having a good time." Derek looked at me, and I barely recognized the coldness in his eyes. "Dad, you're being unreasonable. It's not even that late." "Derek, she just said the most horrible thing about your mother. She's had a couple drinks. She didn't mean anything by it. Come on, Dad. Don't overreact." I looked at my son, this man I had raised, who had once looked up to me, and realized I didn't know him anymore. Brielle had changed him completely. I went back to my bedroom and closed the door. The party continued until 3 in the morning. The next week, I went to my garage to work on a birdhouse I had been building. My woodworking tools were gone. The workbench my father had built was empty. I ran inside. Brielle was alone, watching television. "Where are my tools?" I demanded. She didn't look away from the screen. "I gave them to my brother. He needed them." "You gave them away?" "Those tools were worth over $3,000. Some of them belonged to my father." She shrugged. "You never used them anyway. They were just taking up space in the garage. My brother actually does construction, so they'll get used." "You had no right." She finally looked at me. "I had every right. You're hoarding things you don't need while other people could actually use them. It's selfish." I called Derek at work. He sighed heavily when I told him, "Dad, I'll talk to Brielle. But honestly, you are retired. How often were you really using all those tools?" "That's not the point. They were mine." "I know, and I'm sorry. But can we please not make this a huge fight?" Brielle is sensitive. Brielle is sensitive. That became the excuse for everything. I started to realize that Derek and Brielle had been telling stories to the rest of the family. When I called my sister Ruth, who lived 2 hours away in Columbus, she asked how I was managing. "Managing what?" I asked. "Well, Derek said you've been having trouble taking care of the house by yourself. He said that's why he and Brielle moved in, to help you out." "That's not true. They lost their apartment." There was a pause. "Oh, that's not what Derek told us. He said you called him, that you were lonely and needed help." They were rewriting the story, making me the dependent one, making themselves the heroes. That's when I knew I had been trapped. After 4 months of living in this nightmare, I decided enough was enough. I had been too passive, too willing to keep the peace. But this was my house, my life, and I was not going to let them take it from me anymore. I rehearsed what I would say. I would be calm, firm, and clear. I would give them 60 days' notice to find a new place. I would even offer to help with the deposit. but they had to leave. One evening after dinner, I asked them both to sit down in the living room. Derek looked nervous. Brielle looked annoyed. "I need to talk to you both about something important," I began. "This living situation isn't working out. You've been here 4 months now, and I think it's time you found your own place. I'm giving you 60 days to find something. I'll even help with the deposit if money is tight." Derek's face went pale. Brielle's went ice cold. "You can't kick us out," she said flatly. "This is my house. I've been more than patient, but this isn't working." "You can't kick us out, Amos," she repeated, her voice eerily calm. "What do you mean I can't? This is my house." Brielle stood up and walked to a drawer in the kitchen. She pulled out a folder and returned, dropping it on the coffee table in front of me. "What's this?" I asked. "Look at it." I opened the folder. Inside were legal documents with my signature at the bottom. My hands started to shake as I read them. 3 months ago, Brielle had made a special dinner. It was a Friday night, and she had been unusually kind all week. She made my favorite meal, pot roast with potatoes and carrots, the way Margaret used to make it. After dinner, she had brought out some papers. "Amos, we really appreciate you letting us stay here," she had said sweetly. "I was talking to Derek, and we want to make sure you're protected. If anything ever happened to you, we want to make sure the house stays in the family. These are just some beneficiary forms, updating your insurance information. Just routine stuff." I had been tired, full from a good meal, warmed by the first kindness she had shown in weeks. I signed without reading carefully. I trusted her. She was family. But these weren't insurance forms. They were quit-claim deed documents, adding Derek and Brielle as co-owners of my house. There were also power of attorney documents, giving them authority over my finances in case of emergency. "These are fake," I said, my voice shaking. "You tricked me." "I have a notarized copy," Brielle said. "My friend Susan is a notary. It's all completely legal. You committed fraud. You lied about what these were." She smiled. "Prove it. It's your signature, isn't it? You signed them willingly at your own kitchen table." I looked at Derek. "You knew about this?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Dad, we just wanted to make sure everything was taken care of." "Get out of my house," I said, standing up. "It's not just your house anymore," Brielle said. "We each own 1/3 of it now. You can't kick us out of our own property." I grabbed the papers and walked 3 houses down to where my neighbor Frank lived. Frank was 75, a retired police officer who had lived on our street for 30 years. He had been Margaret's friend, used to bring her flowers from his garden. I knocked on his door at 9 o'clock at night. When he answered, I must have looked terrible because his face immediately filled with concern. "Amos? What's wrong?" I showed him the documents. Frank had me sit down while he read them carefully, his reading glasses perched on his nose. "These look legitimate," he finally said. "The notary seal is real. Your signature is there. Amos, did you sign these?" She said they were insurance papers. She lied to me. Frank rubbed his jaw. "That's fraud, potentially. But it would be hard to prove. It's your word against hers, and you did sign them. You could fight this in court, but it would be expensive. You're looking at hiring a real estate attorney, maybe $10,000 or more in legal fees, and there's no guarantee you'd win." My heart sank. I lived on my Army pension and Social Security. I had some savings, but not enough for a long legal battle. "What can I do?" I asked. Frank looked at me with sad eyes. "I don't know, buddy. I'm sorry." I walked home slowly. The house was dark when I got there. Derek and Brielle had gone upstairs. I went to my bedroom and lay down, staring at the ceiling, wondering how my life had come to this. The next evening, I tried one more time to talk to them. I would appeal to Derek, to whatever good was still left in my son. "Derek, can we talk? Just you and me?" He looked at Brielle, who was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She didn't look up but said, "Whatever you need to say to him, you can say in front of me." "Derek, please," he sighed. "Fine, Dad. Let's go outside." We stood on the back porch in the cooling evening air. I could hear kids playing in a yard nearby, someone mowing their lawn, normal sounds of suburban life. "Son, I need you to understand something. What Brielle did with those documents, that was wrong. She tricked me. She was trying to help. Help? Derek, she's taking my house from me. She's making sure it stays in the family. What if something happened to you? What if you got sick? We'd need to be able to take care of things. I'm 70 years old, not 90. I'm in good health. I don't need anyone to take care of me. Dad, you're getting older. It's just being practical. I looked at him, this stranger with my son's face. What happened to you? You used to be a good man, honest, kind. She's changed you into someone I don't recognize. His face hardened. Don't talk about my wife that way. I'm not attacking her. I'm just saying that this situation is wrong. You know it's wrong. What I know is that you've been making Brielle miserable since we moved in, criticizing everything she does, making her feel unwelcome. She's trying so hard to help you, and all you do is complain. That's not true. It is true. She cooks for you, cleans the house, tries to make things nice, and you throw it back in her face. Derek, she threw your mother's pictures in the garbage. She gave away my tools without asking. She has loud parties in the middle of the night. That's not helping, that's taking over. You're exaggerating. I'm not. His voice rose. You know what I think? I think you're jealous. Jealous that I have someone and you're alone. You want me to be miserable like you. The words stunned me. How can you say that? Because it's true. You've never liked Brielle. You've never given her a chance. That's not fair. Life's not fair, Dad. Now, are we done here? I stared at him, and I saw that there was no reaching him. Brielle had him completely under her control. Yeah, I said quietly. We're done. He went back inside, slamming the door. I stood there on the porch as the sun set, feeling more alone than I had since Margaret died. 2 days later, I tried one final time to assert myself. I approached them in the living room, trying to sound calm and authoritative. I've thought about this, I said. I'm going to challenge those documents in court. I've been making some calls, and I can prove that you misrepresented what they were. A judge will see that. Brielle stood up from the couch. She walked toward me slowly, and something in her eyes made me take a step back. You really want to do this? She asked quietly. I want my house back. She looked at Derek. Can you give us a minute? Derek hesitated, then went upstairs. As soon as he was gone, Brielle's face transformed into something ugly and cold. She stepped closer to me, invading my space. Listen carefully, old man. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to call any lawyers. You're not going to make any trouble. Do you know why? Because I'll fight you every step of the way, I said, trying to sound brave. She slapped me across the face, hard. The sound echoed in the room, and my cheek burned with pain. I stood there, shocked, my hand going to my face. That's why, she said. Because I will make your life a living hell. I will turn everyone against you. I will make you wish you were dead. Do you understand me? I said nothing. I asked you a question. I understand, I whispered. She smiled. Good. Now Derek and I are going out to dinner. Clean up the kitchen. She walked away, grabbed her purse, called for Derek, and they left. I stood in my living room, hand on my burning cheek, and for the first time in my 70 years, I felt truly helpless. That's when I should have called the police. That's when I should have told someone. But I was ashamed. Ashamed that a woman half my size had hit me. Ashamed that my own son was letting this happen. Ashamed that I had let it get this far. So I said nothing. I kept silent, and Brielle knew it. My isolation grew deeper over the following weeks. I tried reaching out to my daughter, Tracy, who lived in Phoenix with her husband and 2 kids. Tracy was 42, a nurse, always busy but always kind. I called her on a Thursday afternoon when I knew she'd be off work. Dad, hi, how are you? Her voice was warm, familiar, like home. Tracy, I need to talk to you about something serious. What's wrong? Are you sick? No, it's about Derek and Brielle. They're living here, and things have gotten bad. I told her everything. The documents, the theft of my tools, the verbal abuse, the slap. My voice cracked when I got to that part, and I had to stop to compose myself. Tracy was silent for a long moment. Dad, that's horrible. That's abuse. You need to call the police. I can't prove the documents were fraud. And the slap. There were no witnesses. It's my word against hers. I'll call Derek right now. I'll make him see reason. Thank you, sweetheart. I just need someone to believe me. That evening, I was in my bedroom when I heard voices downstairs. Brielle and Derek were on speakerphone with someone. I cracked my door open and heard Tracy's voice coming through the phone. I shouldn't have listened, but I did. Tracy, thanks for calling, Brielle said, her voice full of concern. Derek and I have been so worried about your father. Brielle, Dad told me some things. He said you hit him. There was a sob in Brielle's voice. Tracy, I would never. I've been trying so hard to take care of him, but he's been so difficult. He's getting confused, paranoid. We're really worried about him. What do you mean confused? Derek jumped in. Tracy, Dad's memory has been slipping. He tells the same stories over and over. Forgets conversations we just had. He gets angry over things that didn't happen. We think he might be showing early signs of dementia. What? Dad seemed fine when I talked to him. He has good days and bad days, Brielle said. Today must have been a bad day. He gets these ideas in his head, accusations. Last week he accused me of stealing money from his wallet. I hadn't touched it. He had just forgotten where he put it. But he seemed so clear, so specific about what happened. That's how it is sometimes, Derek said. The delusions seem very real to him. We had the documents drawn up to protect him, Tracy. We made sure the house stays in the family. It was his idea originally. He wanted to make sure everything was taken care of. Now he doesn't remember and thinks we tricked him. Oh my God, Tracy said. Does he need to see a doctor? We've been trying to get him to go, Brielle said, still with that sob in her voice. But he refuses. He says there's nothing wrong with him. We're at our wits' end. And the hitting thing, Brielle sighed. Tracy, he came at me yelling, backing me into a corner. I put my hand up to defend myself and accidentally caught his face. It was completely unintentional. But in his mind, he's made it into this whole assault story. I feel terrible, Derek added. This is our father, and we're watching him decline. But he won't listen to us. Maybe if you talk to him, suggested he see a neurologist. Of course. I'll call him tomorrow. Thank you, Tracy. We're just trying to do what's best for him. But it's so hard. They said goodbye, and I heard the phone click off. Then I heard Brielle laugh. God, that was perfect. Did you hear how worried she sounded? I felt bad lying to her. Derek said quietly. Oh, please. It's not really lying. He is getting older. This is just speeding up the inevitable. Better we're in control now than wait until he actually does lose his mind. I closed my door silently and sat on my bed, my whole body shaking. They had poisoned my own daughter against me, and I had heard every word. But what good would it do to tell Tracy? She would think it was another delusion. The next morning, Tracy called. Dad, how are you feeling today? Her voice had that careful, cautious tone people use with fragile things. I'm fine, honey. Listen, Derek and Brielle called me last night. They're really worried about you. What did they say? That you've been having some memory issues, getting confused. Dad, have you thought about seeing a doctor? Maybe getting checked out? Tracy, there's nothing wrong with my memory. I know it's hard to accept, but sometimes these things sneak up on us. Dad, they said the legal documents were your idea, that you wanted to protect the family assets. Do you remember that? No, because it's not true. They're lying to you. Dad, why would they lie? Because they're stealing from me. There was a pause. Dad, you sound really agitated. Are you feeling okay? Maybe you should sit down, have some water. I'm not agitated. I'm frustrated. My own daughter doesn't believe me. I do believe that you believe what you're saying, but sometimes our minds play tricks on us. I see it at the hospital all the time. Dad, will you please just go get checked out? For me, I realized then that anything I said would just confirm their story. If I argued, I was agitated and delusional. If I tried to explain, I was paranoid and confused. I'll think about it, I said. Please do. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. After we hung up, I sat in my bedroom and felt the walls closing in. They had successfully isolated me from my own family. 2 weeks passed in tense, quiet misery. Then Brielle announced she was throwing me a 70th birthday party. "I've invited everyone," she said brightly at breakfast one morning. "Your sister Ruth, your army buddies, the neighbors, some of Derek's friends. It's going to be a real celebration." "I don't want a party," I said. "Nonsense. 70 is a big milestone. We're doing this." I looked at Derek, who avoided my eyes. "It'll be nice, Dad. Let people celebrate you." I dreaded that party with everything in me. I knew what it really was. It was another performance, another chance for them to show everyone what a burden I was, what saints they were for taking care of me. The morning of my birthday, I decided to try one last time. Brielle had gone out shopping for party supplies. Derek was in the kitchen making coffee. "Derek," I said, "please, I'm begging you. Look at what's happening. This isn't right. This isn't who you are." He didn't turn around. "Dad, not today." "When then? When is it going to be okay to talk about how your wife is abusing me?" He spun around, his face red. "She's not abusing you. You're being dramatic and ungrateful. We gave up our lives to move in here and take care of you. I never asked you to. You need us. You can't admit it, but you need us. This house is too much for you. Your memory is going. You're falling apart." "My memory is fine. I haven't fallen apart. The only thing wrong with me is that my son has let his wife turn him into someone cruel." Derek stepped toward me, and I saw something dangerous in his eyes that I had never seen before. "Don't you dare talk about Brielle like that. Derek, please, just listen to me." "No." He shoved me hard in the chest. I stumbled backward, off balance, my arms flailing. The edge of the kitchen counter caught me right across the cheekbone. I felt the impact, felt something crack, and then I was on the floor. Pain exploded across the left side of my face. I put my hand up and felt blood. Derek stood over me, breathing hard. For a second, I saw horror flash across his face, like he had just woken up from a nightmare and realized what he had done. Then his expression went cold again. "Now everyone will see what a fragile, clumsy old man you really are," he said quietly. He stepped over me and walked out of the kitchen. I lay there on my kitchen floor, blood running down my face, and I knew that this was it. This was my rock bottom. I was going to die in this house if I didn't find a way out. I pulled myself up, my face throbbing. I looked in the mirror. My left eye was already swelling, the skin around it turning purple. Blood trickled from a cut on my cheekbone. I cleaned myself up as best I could, but there was no hiding it. I looked like I had been in a fight, which I suppose I had. The party was set to start at 6 o'clock that evening. The doorbell started ringing at 5:45. I heard Brielle greeting people downstairs, her voice bright and cheerful, the perfect hostess. Derek was with her, playing the devoted son. I stood in my bedroom, looking at my reflection. The black eye had gotten worse throughout the day. It was swollen almost shut, the bruise spreading across my cheekbone in shades of purple and black. I could hear more people arriving. Voices I recognized. My sister Ruth, my army buddy Carl, neighbors from up and down the street. All of them here to celebrate my birthday in my own home that no longer felt like mine. I walked downstairs slowly. Each step felt like walking toward an execution. When I entered the living room, the effect was immediate. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. Someone gasped. I stood there in front of everyone, my black eye on full display, and the room fell completely silent. Then, Derek started laughing. Loud, sharp laughter that cut through the quiet. "Dad, you should tell everyone what happened," he said, his voice dripping with cruel amusement. Everyone stared at him, confused by his reaction. "My wife taught him what silence means," Derek said proudly, gesturing toward Brielle. Brielle stood beside him with that cold smirk on her face, and I saw something in her eyes that looked like victory. The room was frozen. Nobody knew how to react. Then Brielle's face transformed. The smirk disappeared, replaced by an expression of shock and concern. She rushed over to me. "Amos! Oh, honey, you fell again. I told you to be careful on those stairs." She turned to the crowd, her eyes wide with worry. "He's been having trouble with his balance lately. We've been trying to get him to use a walker, but he's too stubborn." There was no walker. I had never fallen on the stairs, but she said it with such conviction that I saw doubt flash across people's faces. Derek jumped in smoothly. Dad's balance just isn't what it used to be. We're really worried about him. My sister Ruth came over. Her face creased with concern. She was 65, gray-haired, wearing the cardigan I had bought her last Christmas. Amos, are you okay? How did this happen? I opened my mouth to tell the truth, but Brielle spoke first. He took a tumble this morning, hit his face on the bathroom sink. We wanted to take him to the emergency room, but he refused. You know how he is, so independent. Ruth looked at me, waiting for me to confirm or deny. But what could I say? If I told them Derek pushed me, I would sound paranoid, crazy, exactly like they had been telling everyone I was. I'm fine, I said quietly. Are you sure? Ruth put her hand on my arm. Maybe you should sit down. I'm fine, I repeated. The party resumed, but it felt wrong. People kept looking at me with pity and concern. Brielle and Derek worked the room like professionals, making sure I was never alone with anyone long enough to tell the truth. Throughout the evening, they put on a master class in manipulation. Dad, remember to take your pills, Brielle said loudly, handing me a prescription bottle. I looked at it. They were just vitamins, but the bottle was from a pharmacy, made it look official. Dad, you already told that story, Derek said gently when I was talking to Carl about our time in the army. I hadn't told the story before, but several people nearby looked uncomfortable, like they had just witnessed me repeating myself. No, Dad, that's not what happened. You're mixing things up again, Brielle said sweetly when I tried to tell Ruth about how they had moved in. She turned to Ruth and said quietly, "This happens sometimes. He gets confused about the timeline. It was gaslighting in real time, performed for an audience. And it worked. I could see it in their faces, the pity growing, the concern deepening. They were all starting to believe I was losing my mind." My army buddy Carl pulled me aside at one point. Carl was 73, tough as nails, had served 2 tours in Vietnam. "Amos, you doing all right? You seem off." "I'm not off, Carl. I'm being abused." He looked uncomfortable. "What do you mean?" "Derek and Brielle. They've taken over my house, stolen my money. Derek pushed me this morning. That's how I got this." I pointed to my eye. Carl's expression shifted from concern to worry. "Amos, that's a serious accusation. Did you hit your head when you fell? Sometimes head injuries can make you confused." "I didn't fall. He pushed me. Maybe you should see a doctor, buddy. Get checked out." "I don't need a doctor. I need someone to believe me." Carl put his hand on my shoulder. "I believe that you think that's what happened. But Amos, you gotta consider that maybe you're not remembering things right. It happens to all of us as we get older." I looked at my old friend, this man I had served with, who had saved my life once in Korea, and I realized he didn't believe me either. "Yeah," I said. "Maybe you're right." He looked relieved. "There you go. Just take it easy, okay?" When it came time to cut the birthday cake, Brielle made a toast. She stood in front of everyone, holding her wine glass, looking every bit the devoted daughter-in-law. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight to celebrate dear Amos," she began. "These past few months living here have been so special for Derek and me. We've been able to spend quality time with Amos, help him around the house, make sure he's safe and cared for. It hasn't always been easy. Caring for an aging parent comes with challenges, but we do it out of love, because family takes care of family." People nodded, smiled. Someone said, "Here, here. Amos has given us so much over the years, and now it's our turn to give back to him. So let's raise our glasses to Amos, to 70 wonderful years, and to many more to come." Everyone raised their glasses. To Amos. I stood there with my black eye, my stolen house, my isolated life, and accepted their well wishes with a forced smile. Because what else could I do? After cake, people started leaving. They hugged me gently, like I was fragile. They told Derek and Brielle what wonderful people they were for taking care of me. One neighbor, Patricia from 2 doors down, even pulled Derek aside and said loud enough for me to hear, "If you ever need a break, let me know. Caring for elderly parents is so draining." I was 70, not 90. I was in good health, sharp-minded, capable. But in the space of one evening, they had convinced everyone otherwise. By 9 o'clock, everyone was gone except for my sister Ruth. She was helping Brielle clean up in the kitchen. "You're so good to him," I heard Ruth say. "I worry about Amos living alone." "He's not alone," Brielle said warmly. "He has us. We'll make sure he's taken care of." "That's such a relief. I was thinking maybe it was time to look into assisted living, but if you two are here, that's so much better. We wouldn't have it any other way." Ruth came to say goodbye to me. She hugged me tight. "You're lucky to have them," she whispered. "Not every son would be so devoted." "Yeah," I said. "Lucky." After Ruth left, I went straight to my bedroom. I couldn't stand to be near them anymore. I lay in bed, exhausted and defeated, when I heard voices from downstairs. Derek and Brielle, talking loudly, probably thinking I couldn't hear. "Did you see their faces?" Brielle was laughing. "They all think he's senile. That couldn't have gone better," Derek said. "Carl asked me afterward if we had considered getting him evaluated. I played it perfectly, said we were planning to talk to his doctor. This is going to be so easy now. We can do whatever we want, and everyone will think we're saints for putting up with him." They laughed together. What they didn't know was that someone else had heard them too. My neighbor Frank had come back. He had forgotten his jacket during the party. He had let himself in through the unlocked back door like he always did, like Margaret used to tell him to do. He had walked into the kitchen just as they were celebrating their performance, standing in the doorway, listening to every word. There was a knock on the front door. Brielle and Derek's laughter cut off abruptly. I heard them go to answer it. Frank's voice carried up the stairs. I heard everything, every single word. Silence. Then Brielle's voice, suddenly sweet again. "Frank, you must have misunderstood. We were just relieved that the party went well. Amos has been making some wild accusations lately. We're so worried about him." "I know exactly what I heard. You're abusing that man." "Frank," Derek said, "you're taking things out of context. This is a family matter. Family matter, my foot. I'm calling the police." "And tell them what?" Brielle said, her voice cold now. "That you overheard a private conversation that you're misinterpreting. Please. We have a house full of witnesses who just saw Amos confused and frail. Who do you think they'll believe? The concerned family or the crazy old neighbor? He's just another senile old man," Derek added. "No one will believe him either." I heard the front door close. Frank had left. I got out of bed and looked out my window. Frank was walking back to his house, his shoulders slumped. But as he reached his own porch, he pulled out his phone. A moment later, my phone buzzed with a text message. "Meet me tomorrow. I can help. Trust me." It was from Frank. For the first time in months, I felt a tiny spark of something I had almost forgotten. Hope. The next morning, I waited until Brielle and Derek were both upstairs. I slipped out the back door and walked quickly to Frank's house 3 doors down. Frank let me in immediately, leading me to his kitchen table where coffee was already waiting. "I've been watching this situation for months," Frank said, sitting across from me. "I've seen bruises on you before, heard arguments through the windows. I'm a retired cop, Amos. I know abuse when I see it. Why didn't you say something before?" "Because I wasn't sure you'd accept help. A lot of victims protect their abusers, especially when it's family. But after last night, hearing what they said, seeing what they're doing to you, I can't stay quiet anymore." He pulled out a notepad. "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to gather evidence. Real, solid evidence that can't be dismissed. Then we're going to take it to Adult Protective Services and to a lawyer I know who handles elder abuse cases pro bono. They'll just say I'm confused, that I'm making it up. Not if we have recordings, photos, documents, and witness testimony. I'll testify to what I heard last night. We'll build a case they can't deny." For the first time in months, someone was taking me seriously. Someone believed me. "What do I need to do?" I asked. Frank handed me a small device, barely bigger than a USB drive. "This is a digital recorder. Keep it in your pocket. Record every conversation with them, especially when Brielle gets abusive. Make sure you're in your own home when you do it. Ohio is a one-party consent state, so you're legally allowed to record conversations you're part of." Over the next week, I documented everything. I kept a detailed journal of every incident, noting dates, times, and exactly what happened. Frank had given me his old digital camera, and I took photos of new bruises on my arms where Brielle had grabbed me during an argument about the thermostat. I recorded 3 separate instances of her verbal abuse when Derek wasn't around. On the 4th day, I captured the most damning evidence yet. Brielle had come into my room demanding I sign more papers, something about refinancing the house. When I refused, she lost her temper completely. "You pathetic old fool," she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "You're going to sign whatever I put in front of you, or I will make your life even more miserable than it already is. I can have you committed. I can tell everyone you tried to attack me. I can make you disappear, Amos. Don't test me." I had the recorder in my shirt pocket, every word captured clearly. Frank and I met secretly every few days at his house. I would bring him my journal, the recordings, the photos. He was building a file, organizing everything chronologically, making it impossible to dismiss. "This is good," Frank said on day 10. "This is really good. We have a clear pattern of abuse, theft, fraud, and threats. My friend Sarah is a lawyer who specializes in this stuff. I'm going to set up a meeting for next week." I felt empowered for the first time in months. I wasn't helpless. I was gathering proof. Soon everyone would know the truth. On day 12, I made a mistake. I had been in the bathroom, transferring the recording device from my pants pocket to my shirt pocket, when someone knocked on the door. I hurried, shoving the device into my nightstand drawer instead, planning to get it later. I forgot. That afternoon, I went to Frank's house for our daily meeting. We spent an hour going over the latest recordings. When I got home 2 hours later, Brielle and Derek were waiting in the living room. Brielle was holding the recording device. My blood went cold. "What is this, Amos?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "It's mine. I know it's yours. I found it in your nightstand. Along with this." She held up my journal, and these. The photos scattered across the coffee table. "You went through my things. I was putting away laundry. Imagine my surprise when I found all this. A secret recorder, a journal full of lies about us, staged photos. Amos, what have you been doing?" Derek stood beside her, his face pale. "Dad, this is crazy. You've been recording us? That's illegal." "It's not illegal. Ohio is a one-party consent state, and they're not lies. Everything in that journal is true." Brielle walked toward me slowly. "Who have you been talking to? Who have you shown this to?" I said nothing. "It's Frank, isn't it? That interfering old fool next door. What did you tell him?" "Everything." Something flickered across her face. "Not worry. Calculation. Derek, call Dr. Morrison," she said calmly. "What? Why?" "Just do it." Derek pulled out his phone, dialed. "Hi, this is Derek Patterson. My father is a patient of Dr. Morrison's." "Yes, Amos Patterson. We need to speak with the doctor about something urgent regarding my father's mental health." "Yes, I can hold." I realized what was happening, but I couldn't stop it. "Dr. Morrison, thank you for taking my call. I'm really worried about my father. He's been displaying some concerning behaviors. Paranoid thinking, obsessive note-taking, recording conversations because he thinks people are out to get him. Yes, it's been getting worse. My wife and I are living with him, trying to take care of him, but he's become fixated on this idea that we're stealing from him, abusing him. Yes, it's very distressing. Tonight he actually threatened to report us to the police based on these delusions. What should we do?" I tried to grab the phone. "That's not true. Let me talk to him." Derek held the phone away. "See, doctor? He's getting agitated now." Yes, I understand. Thank you." He hung up and looked at me with something like pity. "Dr. Morrison says we should take you to the emergency room for a psychiatric evaluation. He's concerned you might be a danger to yourself or others." "I'm not going anywhere." "You don't have a choice, Dad. You can't force me." Brielle smiled. "Actually, we can. Derek has power of attorney for your medical decisions, remember? Those papers you signed? That's when I ran. I bolted for the front door, but Derek was faster. He grabbed me, held me back. "Let me go." "Dad, stop. You're only making this worse." Brielle was already on her phone. Yes, police, please. My elderly father-in-law is having a mental health crisis. He's become delusional and potentially violent. We need help getting him to the hospital for evaluation. Yes, he's 70 years old. Yes, he's been making threats. Please hurry. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers were at my door. They were young, professional, sympathetic. They listened to Brielle explain how worried they were, how I had been declining, how I had threatened them. I tried to tell my side, but I sounded frantic, desperate. I kept pointing to the recording device, the journal, trying to explain the evidence I had gathered. But to them, I just looked like a paranoid old man having a breakdown. "Sir," one officer said gently, "given the circumstances, and given that your son has medical power of attorney, we need to take you to County Psychiatric Hospital for evaluation. It's just 72 hours. They'll assess you, make sure you're safe. I don't need to be assessed. I need you to listen to me. They're stealing from me, abusing me. We'll make sure all of this gets looked into," the other officer said. "But right now, our priority is making sure you're safe." They weren't unkind. They truly thought they were helping. But as they put me in the back of the police car, as I saw neighbors watching from their windows, as Brielle waved goodbye with fake tears in her eyes, I knew that she had won. She had weaponized the system against me. At County Psychiatric Hospital, they took my belongings, my phone, everything. They put me in a room with a bed bolted to the floor and windows that didn't open. A psychiatric nurse came in, asked me questions. "Why do you think your family wants to hurt you?" "They don't want to hurt me. They want my money and my house. And they're doing this how?" I explained about the forged documents, the stolen tools, the verbal abuse, the physical violence. To my ears, even I sounded paranoid. The nurse nodded sympathetically, made notes. "We're going to have a doctor evaluate you. Try to get some rest." For 3 days, I was trapped there. They gave me medications I didn't need. A psychiatrist who looked fresh out of medical school interviewed me twice, asking the same questions over and over. "Do you hear voices?" "No." "Do you think people are plotting against you?" "My son and daughter-in-law are stealing from me." "That's not paranoia. That's reality." "Why do you think they would do that?" "Because they're criminals." More notes, more sympathetic looks, more pills I refused to take. Derek visited once. He sat across from me in the visiting room, looking uncomfortable. "Dad, I'm sorry it came to this." "You're sorry. You put me here. You were scaring Brielle, hiding recorders, keeping obsessive notes. We didn't know what you might do, what I might do. Derek, I'm the victim here. When did you become so blind?" He looked at his hands. "The doctor says you might have paranoid delusions. They want to start you on medication." "I don't need medication. I need you to wake up and see what your wife is doing to your father." He stood up. "I can't do this anymore. Get better, Dad." He walked out, and I didn't see him again. On the 3rd day, they released me. Not because they believed me, but because the 72-hour hold was up. The discharge papers had diagnoses I didn't recognize. Adjustment disorder, possible early dementia, paranoid thinking. Derek picked me up. The drive home was silent. When we walked into the house, I knew immediately that something was wrong. I went upstairs. My bedroom door was open. My room was empty. The bed, the dresser, my clothes, Margaret's pictures I had hidden in the closet, everything was gone. "What did you do?" I asked, my voice shaking. Brielle appeared behind me. "We moved you to the guest room. It's smaller, easier for you to manage. Better access to the bathroom for someone in your condition." The guest room was barely bigger than a closet. A single bed, a nightstand, nothing else. Like a prison cell. "Where are my things?" "We donated most of it. You don't need all that stuff." "Those were my things. My wife's pictures. The pictures are in storage. You can have 1 or 2 in your new room if you want." I felt my world crumbling. "I want to see my bank accounts." "Why?" Derek asked. "Because I want to know what you've done." Brielle smiled. "We're managing your finances now, remember? It's better this way. Less confusing for you." That evening, after they had gone to bed, I snuck out to Frank's house. I used his computer to check my bank accounts online. The devastation was complete. My checking account, which had held $42,000, was empty. My savings account, $73,000, gone. My credit cards, which I had always paid off completely every month, were maxed out with $31,000 in debt I hadn't incurred. I checked my pension deposits. They were being automatically rerouted to an account I couldn't access. Frank pulled up the county property records. My name was gone from the house deed entirely. Brielle and Derek had somehow managed to transfer full ownership while I was in psychiatric hold. They had also filed paperwork to refinance. They were taking out a $200,000 home equity loan against my house. "She's stealing everything," Frank said, his face red with anger. "We have to stop this." "How?" "I have psychiatric discharge papers that say I'm delusional. They have legal power of attorney. They've already told everyone I'm confused and paranoid." Frank put his hand on my shoulder. "We find another way. We don't give up." But I had never felt more hopeless in my life. When I got back to the house at 10 o'clock, Brielle and Derek were waiting. "Where were you?" Brielle demanded. "Out. You're not allowed to just leave without telling us. I'm a grown man. I don't need permission." She laughed. "Yes, you do. Derek has guardianship paperwork being filed this week. Soon you won't be able to make any decisions without our approval." I stared at Derek. "You're going to let her do this?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. "It's for your own good, Dad. You're stealing my life. We're protecting you. Get out of my house." "It's not your house anymore," Brielle said coldly. "Check the deed. It's in our names now. 100%. That's not legal." "I never agreed to that. You signed the papers while you had power of attorney. We were just acting in your best interest." She smiled. "Now, Derek and I have decided that this living arrangement isn't working out. You're too unstable to live here. We think it's best if you find somewhere else to stay. This is my house. Not anymore. Look, we'll give you tonight to pack a bag. But tomorrow, you need to leave." Derek at least had the decency to look ashamed. But he said nothing to stop her. "Derek, please," I begged. "Don't do this." "I'm sorry, Dad." That night, I barely slept. The next morning, they physically removed me from the house. Derek packed a single suitcase with some of my clothes. They threw it on the front lawn. I stood on the sidewalk in front of my house at 70 years old. Homeless, penniless, completely destroyed. Neighbors watched from their windows. No one came to help. They probably thought this was necessary, that I was too unstable to live alone. I picked up my suitcase and walked to Frank's house. Frank answered the door immediately, furious. "They kicked you out? Those monsters." He took me in without hesitation. That evening, Frank's granddaughter stopped by. Samantha was 28, worked as an investigative journalist for the Cleveland Plain Dealer. She had dark hair, sharp eyes, and an intensity that reminded me of reporters from old movies. Frank told her everything that had happened. Samantha's eyes lit up with that particular look journalists get when they smell a story. "This is exactly what I've been looking for," she said. "Elder abuse, financial exploitation, system failures. Amos, I want to tell your story, but I need you to understand something. If we do this, it goes public. Your name, your face, everything. People will know what happened to you. Are you ready for that?" I thought about Margaret, about the house we had built together, the life we had lived, about Derek, my son who I no longer recognized, about Brielle who had taken everything from me. And I thought about other people like me, other elderly people being abused and exploited, too ashamed or scared to speak up. "Yes," I said. "I'm ready to fight back." Samantha spent the next week gathering everything. She interviewed me for hours, recording every detail of what had happened. She spoke to Frank, who gave a detailed account of what he had witnessed and heard. She obtained copies of all the documents, the fraudulent deeds, the power of attorney papers, the financial records showing the theft. She was thorough and relentless. She pulled Brielle's background, and what she found made my blood run cold. Brielle had done this before, twice. Her first marriage had been to a 67-year-old widower in Florida named Robert Chen. 6 months after they married, Robert had died under mysterious circumstances. The death was ruled accidental, a fall down the stairs. But Robert's children had contested the will. Brielle had gotten $500,000. Her second marriage was to another older man in Georgia, 72-year-old Paul Henderson. That marriage had ended in divorce after Paul had managed to get a restraining order against her. He had accused her of financial abuse and manipulation. But the case had been dropped when Paul's health suddenly declined and he moved into a nursing home. Brielle had walked away with his house and $50,000. "She's a predator," Samantha said, showing me the documents she had uncovered. "She specifically targets older men, vulnerable men, and she bleeds them dry. Your son probably has no idea who he really married. How did no one catch this before? She changes tactics, moves to different states, uses variations of her name, and she's smart about it. She doesn't leave obvious trails. But Amos, your case is different. You're alive, you're willing to go public, and we have documented evidence. We can stop her." On a Sunday morning 2 weeks after I had been kicked out of my house, the Cleveland Plain Dealer published Samantha's article on the front page. The headline read, "Stolen Life: How One Son Helped His Wife Rob His Father of Everything." The article was devastating in its detail. It included photos of my black eye from the birthday party, copies of the fraudulent documents, bank statements showing the theft of over $300,000, Frank's testimony about what he had witnessed, background information on Brielle's previous marriages, and it named them, Derek Patterson and Brielle Patterson, with their address, my address, prominently displayed. The story went viral within hours. Local TV news stations picked it up. By evening, it was being shared across social media platforms. National news outlets started calling. Brielle and Derek's phone must have been ringing off the hook, because when reporters showed up at the house, they refused to answer the door. Camera crews camped out on the lawn. Neighbors who had been so sympathetic to them just weeks ago were now giving interviews about how they had seen warning signs. Within 48 hours, Adult Protective Services opened an investigation. The police began a fraud investigation. The bank, alerted to the elder abuse, immediately froze all accounts connected to my name. The local district attorney, facing public pressure, announced that his office would be reviewing the case for potential criminal charges. Sarah Chen, the attorney Frank had told me about, called me that Monday. She specialized in elder law and took cases like mine pro bono when she could. She was a small woman in her 50s with steel in her voice. "Amos, I've read the article. I've reviewed the documents Frank sent me, and I want to take your case. We're going to get you everything back, and we're going to make sure they pay for what they did." She filed emergency motions in court that same day. By Wednesday, we had a hearing scheduled. The courtroom was packed. News cameras weren't allowed inside, but reporters filled the gallery. Brielle and Derek sat at the defendant's table with their lawyer, a nervous-looking man who kept shuffling papers. Judge Patricia Martinez presided. She was in her 60s, had a reputation for being tough but fair. Sarah presented our case methodically. The forged documents, the recording of Brielle threatening me, photos of injuries, bank statements showing systematic theft, Frank's testimony about what he had witnessed, the psychiatric hold being used as a weapon to silence me. Brielle and Derek's lawyer tried to argue that everything had been done with my consent, that I had been confused, that they were just trying to help. Then Sarah played the recording I had made, where Brielle clearly threatened me, called me a pathetic old fool, said she could make me disappear. The courtroom was silent as Brielle's voice filled the room, dripping with contempt and malice. Judge Martinez's expression hardened. When it was Derek's turn to testify, Sarah destroyed him. She asked him about his mother, about our relationship before Brielle. Then she asked him about the birthday party, about why he had laughed when everyone saw my black eye. "I don't know," he mumbled. "I wasn't thinking. Or were you thinking very clearly? Were you and your wife enjoying the humiliation of your father in front of his friends and family?" "No. Did you push your father the morning of his birthday party?" Derek's face went pale. He looked at Brielle, who was staring straight ahead. "Answer the question, Mr. Patterson," Judge Martinez said. We were arguing. I got upset. I didn't mean to hurt him, but you did hurt him. It was an accident that gave your 70-year-old father a black eye, that you then laughed about in front of guests. Derek started crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This all got out of control. Brielle. She said we were just protecting the family assets. She said Dad was getting confused, and we needed to make sure everything was taken care of. I didn't know she was going to. I didn't know it would go this far. So you're saying your wife manipulated you? She. Yes. Yes, she did. Brielle's lawyer jumped up. Objection. Leading the witness. But the damage was done. Derek had broken. Judge Martinez ordered an immediate freeze on all assets. She invalidated the power of attorney documents, ruling they had been obtained through fraud and misrepresentation. She ordered a complete forensic accounting of all my finances. She issued a temporary restraining order against both Derek and Brielle, forbidding them from contacting me or disposing of any property. Most importantly, she ordered them to vacate my house immediately. That day, Mr. Patterson, Mrs. Patterson, she said, her voice cold. I am deeply disturbed by what I've heard in this courtroom today. The systematic exploitation and abuse of a vulnerable senior is one of the most reprehensible acts I can imagine. And when it's perpetrated by family, by a son against his own father, it represents a profound betrayal of trust. I am referring this matter to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. Sheriff, please escort Mr. and Mrs. Patterson to the property to collect their personal belongings only. They have 2 hours. That afternoon, I stood with Sarah and Frank as sheriff's deputies supervised Derek and Brielle removing their things from my house. Brielle's face was a mask of rage. Derek wouldn't look at me. When they were gone, I walked into my house. My house. It felt empty, violated, but it was mine again. Over the next 3 months, the legal process ground forward. The forensic accountant Sarah hired discovered even more theft than we had initially known about. Brielle had opened credit cards in my name, taken out loans, sold items from my house online. The total came to over $300,000. The criminal trial was held in early December. The courtroom was packed again. The prosecution presented an overwhelming case. They had the documents, the recordings, testimony from Frank, testimony from neighbors who had witnessed incidents, medical records from the psychiatric hold. Brielle maintained her innocence throughout, claiming she had only tried to help me. But when they played that recording again, her threatening voice filled the courtroom. It was clear to everyone what she really was. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts: elder abuse, fraud, forgery, identity theft, grand theft. Judge Martinez sentenced her to 8 years in prison. Derek had taken a plea deal earlier, testifying against Brielle in exchange for probation. He pleaded guilty to conspiracy and financial exploitation. He would serve 5 years of probation and was required to pay restitution. Most importantly, he lost all custody rights to any inheritance or family assets. I made sure of that in my will. The civil court awarded me everything: my house, my money, damages. The bank restored my accounts. Brielle was ordered to pay back every penny, though I knew I would probably never see most of it. But that was okay. I had won. I had fought back and won. Tracy flew in from Phoenix when she heard about the verdict. She stood in my driveway crying, apologizing over and over. Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have listened. I hugged her tight. You didn't know. Brielle was very good at what she did. I'm your daughter. I should have known. You know now. That's what matters. Ruth came too, and other family members, all of them apologizing, all of them ashamed they hadn't seen what was happening. I forgave them. Holding on to anger would only hurt me more. The community that had pitied me, that had thought I was senile and confused, now rallied around me. Neighbors brought food, offered to help with yard work, apologized for not speaking up sooner. Carl, my army buddy, came by one afternoon. I'm sorry I didn't believe you, he said. When you told me at the party, I should have listened. You thought you were helping. Everyone did. Still, I'm sorry. Frank became my closest friend. We had coffee together every morning, worked on projects together, played cards with some of the other guys from the neighborhood. 6 months after the trial, I was sitting on my front porch on a Saturday morning, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise. The house was mine again. My accounts were restored. My life was my own. Samantha stopped by, working on a follow-up article. "How are you doing?" she asked. "Better than I ever thought I would be." "Any word from Derek?" "No. His lawyer calls sometimes about the restitution payments. That's it. I'm sorry. I'm not. I lost a son, but I gained my freedom. Some prices are worth paying." She smiled. "You know, your story has helped a lot of people. I've gotten letters from families dealing with similar situations. You speaking up gave them courage to speak up too. That made everything worthwhile. If my pain could help someone else avoid the same fate, then it meant something." It has been 2 years now since that terrible birthday party. Since I stood in my living room with a black eye while my son laughed and my daughter-in-law smirked. 2 years since I was kicked out of my own house, penniless and broken. 2 years since I decided to fight back. Today, I volunteer 3 days a week with the Cleveland Council on Elder Abuse Prevention. I tell my story to seniors, in community centers, at churches, anywhere people will listen. I teach them the warning signs, the isolation, the financial control, the manipulation and gaslighting, the way abusers weaponize systems meant to protect us. I show them my scar, the faint line on my cheekbone where I hit the counter when Derek pushed me. I show them photos from that birthday party, my black eye on full display, and I tell them the most important thing I learned. Never be silent. Never let shame keep you from speaking up. Your voice matters, no matter how old you are, no matter how frail others think you are. Brielle tried to teach me silence. She wanted me quiet, compliant, beaten down. For a long time, it worked. But that night, after that humiliating party, when Frank reached out with that text message offering to help, something shifted inside me. I realized that silence would only lead to my destruction. That speaking up, even when no one believed me, even when the systems failed me, was the only way forward. Some people will try to teach you silence, through fear, through intimidation, through making you doubt your own reality. They'll tell you that you're confused, that your memory is failing, that you're imagining things. They'll use your age against you, your vulnerability, your trust. Don't let them. Document everything. Tell people what's happening, even if they don't believe you at first. Find allies wherever you can. And most importantly, refuse to be quiet. I learned that lesson at 70 years old. Better late than never. My house is full again now. Not with people who want to steal from me, but with friends who care. Frank is here several times a week. Tracy visits every few months with her family. Ruth stops by often. My grandkids know my story now, and they're proud of their grandpa for fighting back. The guest room where Brielle had confined me is now my workshop. I rebuilt my woodworking bench, bought new tools, and I make birdhouses and small furniture pieces that I donate to charity. Margaret's pictures are back on the mantle, back in the hallway, back where they belong. I talk to her sometimes, tell her about my day, about the people I've helped, about how I survived. I think she would be proud. Derek sends a letter every 6 months with his restitution payment. He never writes much, just dad at the top and I'm sorry somewhere in the middle. He's living in Pennsylvania now with a new job, trying to rebuild his life. I hope he succeeds. I hope he learns something from all of this. Do I forgive him? I'm working on it. Forgiveness is a process, not a moment. Maybe someday. Do I forgive Brielle? No. Some things are unforgivable. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she enjoyed it. She's in prison now, where she belongs, and I sleep better knowing she can't hurt anyone else. People sometimes ask me if I wish I had fought back sooner, if I regret letting it get as bad as it did before I took action. The truth is, I wish I had never been in that situation at all. I wish Derek had stayed the son I raised him to be. I wish he had never met Brielle. I wish Margaret were still alive, and my house was still full of the happy memories we made together, instead of the painful ones that came after. But wishing doesn't change anything. Action does. So no, I don't regret the timing. I fought back when I was ready to fight, and that's what matters. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in my story, if someone in your life is controlling you, manipulating you, stealing from you, abusing you, please hear me. You deserve better. You deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. You deserve to have your voice heard and your rights protected. Don't wait until you've lost everything. Speak up now. Call Adult Protective Services. Call the police. Call a lawyer. Tell family members, friends, neighbors. Document everything with photos, recordings, written notes. Build your case, and if no one believes you at first, keep talking. Eventually, someone will listen. Someone like Frank, someone like Samantha, someone who sees the truth and is willing to help. Your voice matters. At 70, at 80, at 90, your voice matters. Brielle tried to teach me what silence means. She thought it meant submission, defeat, acceptance of my fate. But I learned a different lesson about silence. Real silence isn't about being quiet when you should speak. Real silence is what happens to people like Brielle after they've been exposed and defeated. She's silent now, behind bars. And I'm here, speaking up, helping others, living my life on my own terms. That's the power of refusing to be silenced. I'm 72 years old now. I've survived war. I've survived losing the love of my life. And I've survived being betrayed by my own son. I'm still here. I'm still fighting. And I'm still speaking up. That's my story. That's my testimony. And I'm sharing it with you so that maybe, just maybe, someone else won't have to go through what I went through. Be brave. Speak up. Fight back. You're worth it. Now I want to hear from you. Have you or someone you know experienced elder abuse? What warning signs do you think people should watch out for? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else recognize what's happening to them before it's too late. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think, if it reminded you to check on the elderly people in your life, please hit that like button. It helps this message reach more people who need to hear it. And subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more stories about overcoming hardship, fighting back against injustice, and finding strength when everything seems lost. We share these stories because they matter, because real people face these struggles, and because sometimes hearing that someone else survived gives us the courage to survive too. Finally, please share this video. Share it with your parents, your grandparents, your friends who work in healthcare or social services. Share it with anyone who needs to understand what elder abuse looks like and how to fight it. The more people who know these warning signs, the more lives we can save. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. And remember, your voice matters. Always. Take care of each other out there. And never, ever let anyone teach you silence.